Outside of the Tier 1 Boros Monarch powerhouse, Mardu has not been an easy color trio to successfully build in Pauper. However, can we use this wedge to put a different spin on one of the best decks in the format? Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Card Realm's Weekly Deck Tech. I am your host DrakV, and in this episode we're using a true juggernaut in the Pauper format, Affinity. Today, Tiago Fuguete shares his experiences with Mardu Affinity, and he'll tell us why it's a great alternative to the more popular Grixis and Rectos builds, and how this deck plays well against the plethora of decks at the top of the current metagame. To get started, we'll take a brief look at the deck to see how Tiago crafted this often underplayed but always powerful 3-color clan. And here's our deck list. We have 19 lands, 3 Drossforge Bridge, 2 Goldmire Bridge, 3 Rustvale Bridge, 3 Vault of Whispers, 4 Great Furnace, and 4 Ancient Den. For the creature package, we have 1 Krark Clan Shaman, 3 Glint Hawk, 3 Core Skyfisher, 3 Frogmite, and 4 Mirror Enforcers. For the other artifacts in this suite, we have 3 Experimental Synthesizers, 3 Blood Fountains, 4 Chromatic Stars, and 4 Eager Wellsprings. We only have 2 enchantments in this deck, and they are both Makeshift Munitions. We have 4 spells, 4 Galvanic Blast, 3 Reckoner's Bargain, and 4 Deadly Dispute. Let's go to the sideboard where we have 1 Gorilla Shaman, 2 more Krark Clan Shamans, 3 Lone Missionary, 1 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Duress, 1 Shenanigans, 2 Chainer's Edict, 2 Red Elemental Blast, and 1 Fiery Cannonade. As you might have picked up on, Mardu Affinity smashes together 2 of the most powerful archetypes out there right now, Affinity and Boros. We're all pretty familiar with the Affinity half of the deck, with its consistent beaters such as Mirror Enforcer and Frogmite that come into play early and often for free, as well as keeping the core of all Affinity decks, Blood Fountain. We pair these enablers with only the best, most value-driven parts of Boros, Glint Hawk, and Core Skyfisher, as well as one of the best cards to enter any format in recent memory, Experimental Synthesizer. These top-tier values notwithstanding, we would be remiss not to mention 2 of the most important cylinders in the engine of this hot rod, Reckoner's Bargain and Deadly Dispute. As with any format pillar, Affinity is not without its weaknesses. As we've seen for months, all artifact-based decks are susceptible to Dust. This nearly 3-decade-old common is particularly potent against our deck and every other 3-color Affinity build, because we get the correct lands on board early is critical for survival, and our various dual lands, while powerful, are inherently weak to the 3-mana double Stone Rain. But let's start before our first land ever hits the battlefield and what our role should be after that. First and foremost, our role with this deck must be that of the beatdown. Developing our board early with cheap mana rocks and fountains is paramount to anything else in your opening hand, not to mention never letting our engine run out of gas by sacrificing many of the said rocks to draw cards with Reckoner's Bargain and Deadly Dispute. The faster we're able to draw cards, the faster we're able to pile up our creatures, which puts our opponents on the back foot and pushes the game well out of their reach. Regarding mulligans, it's important to remember that this is a 3-color list, so we need to make sure we never miss our land drops. Much like ATOG Affinity decks of yore, these shiny new versions are no different in the fact that they can easily lose a game to bad mulligans alone. Not only are there important decisions to make before playing your first land, but there are just as many choices to be made when sideboarding. This aspect of the game can usually be where most matchups are won and lost, and it's no different for us. Post-sideboarding, we have to be even more careful with the mulligan strategy if we are hoping to play around our opponent's land removal, which can happen as early as turn 2 in some matches, so let's take a look at our sideboard maneuvers against few of the most common matchups. Versus Grixis Affinity. Despite many similarities, this is not a true mirror match. Although the 2 decks have nearly identical game plans, ours has one big difference. Well, 2. Glint Hawk and Core Skyfisher, which interact very well with Experimental Synthesizer. This alone can give us a noticeable advantage when the game bogs down, which it likely will in this particular matchup. Let's sideboard in 1 Mox Monkey, 1 Relic of Progenitus, 1 Shenanigans. Let's take out 1 Chromatic Star, a Frogmite, and a Krark Clan Shaman. Versus Boros, this match lands us in an odd spot, and it's both good and kind of bad at the same time. As mentioned earlier, nearly half of our deck has been borrowed from Boros. The good part is that our Mirror Enforcer, which forces a 2-for-1 on most occasions, has to be dealt with. The matchup has a similar game plan to playing against Grixis Affinity, which is why I mention it here. So sideboard in 1 Mox Monkey, 1 Relic of Progenitus, 1 Shenanigans. Let's take out 1 Chromatic Star, 1 Frogmite, and 1 Krark Clan Shaman. Versus Boggles, This is one of the worst matchups for us, since in game 1 we have few interactions. Ultimately, your best game plan is just crossing your fingers and hope that you don't find yourself in this situation in the first place. However, post-sideboard, we do have Chainer's Edict, and this is our absolute best chance against Boggles, but we can also toss in sweepers to increase our odds just a little bit. Let's sideboard in 2 Chainer's Edicts, a single Fiery Cannonade, and 2 Krark Clan Shamans. Let's sideboard out 1 Chromatic Star, 2 Synthesizers, and 2 Makeshift Munitions. Versus Rectos Burn. Playing against this immensely popular new burn variation is always complicated, but I don't think that this matchup is too bad for us, as we have 2 excellent things going for us. First, the speed with which we can go wide can be too overwhelming for most burn-style decks, and 2, Reckoner's Bargain can give us the time and life total we need to drag out a win. We're going to sideboard in 2 Duress, a Mox Monkey, and 3 Lone Missionaries. We're going to take out 1 Blood Fountain, a Chromatic Star, 2 Synthesizers, a Krark Clan Shaman, and a Makeshift Munitions. Versus Fairies. Generally, this is a positive matchup for Mardu Affinity. Izzet Fairies could be a bit worse post-sideboard because of their own copies of Gorilla Shaman and Shenanigans, but if it's Blue-Black Fae, we won't suffer really at all from artifact hate. That said, our own game plan against Izzet and Dimir will be the same. Try to go as wide as possible, as quickly as possible, to avoid suffering from the Monarch and attack at every opportunity. We're going to sideboard in 2 Red Elemental Blast or Pyroblast if you're so inclined. And we're going to take out 1 Synthesizer and 1 Krark Clan Shaman. That pretty much wraps up this sideboard guide, so to finish the article, I want to emphasize that this deck is excellent. Tiago says that with confidence because he won a clean 10-0 in back-to-back Pauper Leagues. This deck stands its ground against most of the meta and has answers to almost everything the format throws at us. My personal favorite aspect of this deck is that it is one of Pauper's few pick-up-and-play lines. It's not complicated, but it is supremely powerful. If you have any questions, suggestions, or upgrades, drop them below or in the comment section of the original article. Thanks for watching this week's Deck Tech, and for myself and everyone over at Cards Realm, brew decks, have fun, and we'll see you next time. Peace.